As I was doing my morning ritualic elder scrolling, so what I did there, oh wait, I just called myself old, redo. As I was doing my morning ritualic millennial scrolling, oh you didn't know, if you were born from 1981 to 1997, you're a millennial. Well, basically what that means is I could have been doing anything else more productive. Thanks to this, I pleasantly came across this little thumbnail called The Harsh Reality of Gaming in New Zealand from Bobby's Board. And I thought to myself, hey, I know that place. I've got friends there. So I give this video a watch, and as I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, I know New Zealand is so isolated that it's not even included on the flat earth map. We here in South Africa have a very similar issue that is very comparable to your own, and that is when my boy Bobby dropped the line.
I'd love to know from you guys though, where are you located in the world? And do you share any of these common problems I have? Let me know by dropping me a comment below.
A comment? I'll do you one better. Here's a response video no one asked for. I got opinions. Okay, so I know New Zealanders aren't that fond of South Africans, what with our rugby team being superior to yours. I'm kidding, I don't care, I don't even know rugby, I don't even know what a forward is. Believe it or not, I think we've got more in common than we don't. For example, we also eat Marmite. So here we go, on the
positives. We often get new game releases first in New Zealand before anyone else in the world.
To a great start, I see. Yeah, you definitely will know this one. It's not a feature I've noticed that is a problem or not a problem. We kind of piggyback on the EU time zone, so...
Number 2, the friends you make through gaming are actually a lot more likely to become real-life friends.
Yeah, we gamers do tend on gravitating towards each other. Especially when gaming is not the norm in your country's culture. When you find someone that has that as an interest with you, you have a tendency of becoming friends very quickly. And South Africa has its share of cultures, but gaming not being one of them. So once again, we share this same situation. It's a big country, so the odds of someone staying where you are staying, if you do meet someone online, is very small unless you stay in Joburg or Cape Town, the two primary big cities. So I've got one friend, he was at my wedding, I was at his wedding, we became very good friends in that. And I've got another friend, an old little policeman from Dispatch. Yeah, been friends a couple of years, gives me a call. I know he's going to watch this because he's a subscriber. Aware also being a phrase. So for example, I don't know how when you're playing a game, you see another player or you see it in the chat and you notice, oh, that guy's another New Zealander. But usually with us, you see a guy dropping a beer bomb, using dirty words in a native tongue. Then your response would usually be, away. Also quite a funny phrase. We never use it here, but it's a universal. When someone says away, you know they're from South Africa, and that's just a way of identifying one another. Very similar to unsini. It's a Swati term for sup. It just sounds cool. Unsini. I love it.
The last positive of being a gamer in New Zealand is it's actually less likely to experience player count, like server connection issues with big games on release.
Okay, now you're just mocking me. As earlier mentioned, Africa, that's right, the continent, does not really have many gaming servers as it's not that prominent. So if we play, we generally connect to the UK servers. Although being quite in the same time zone, the distance makes it a lot peskier. But we do now recently have a shorter route to the US, but alas.
Quick disclaimer, this is not me complaining about being a gamer in New Zealand. This is simply me just highlighting some of the common problems that exist as a gamer in New Zealand.
Yeah, ditto to your disclaimer. It's not that we're complaining per se. We don't know of better. This is what we grew up with, this is what we've got, and it's what we deal with. So it's just is how it is. But I'm gonna lie if I don't say I'm sometimes envious when I see some of the stuff happening, the events, everything in other countries. So, but yeah, the only options is we have to do it ourselves, make our own thing, or immigrate, which is what most people do.
The negatives.
The negatives.
Let's get into the negatives. It's impossible to find any lobbies on old games.
Do you have lobbies on old games? We do have access to the UK servers, but you either play like no games with no ping, or you play games with high ping and high games. Sorry, that joke just didn't land. Sorry, I tried.
Next negative of being a gamer in New Zealand, and that's that the connection or ping is terrible when playing with people outside of New Zealand and Australia.
I feel you, son. This one hits close to home. What is quite sucky is you can see the dark blue. That is the people that's English speaking. And you can see these are the primary countries, your America, UK, Australia, New Zealand. And here we are at the tip here. So every other country that we can connect to online that has got proper service and stuff is quite far off. I mean, all the other countries around us do speak English as like a secondary or third or whatever language. And it's sucky playing with these people. It's because that communication thing is absolutely essential. If you can't properly communicate, it's a lot of Portuguese, India. So when we connect, we have to kind of connect to these guys, and as you can imagine, as showed earlier, and it sucks for both of us. It's funny, you're actually closer to the US than we are, but if we look at you guys connecting to the UK. Okay, you know how if they say if you dig down, you're going to end up in China? Now, if you dig down from Auckland and New Zealand, you end up in Spain. So it's literally the other side of the world. It's not even a comparison. But one thing you guys do have in New Zealand, which I don't think you show enough appreciation for, is when you see that flag with the 2 additional stars. That beefy neighbor of yours, Australia, has a massive gaming community, and thanks to them, you guys also piggybacking off that gives you guys access to a lot more than you normally would have originally had. And seriously, I wish I produced anything as frequently as Australia produces content creators. It's like a primary export for them. Where was I? Oh yeah, about African servers. As an example, here is a list of prominent games which does not have African servers. World of Warcraft, New World. So, sorry, no melee classes for you. You're gonna have to do the range stuff, which allows for a bit more pinginess. Fortnite, PUBG, Apex Legend, League of Legends, Sea of Thieves, Hearthstone. Oh no, my card delayed too much when I tried dropping. Hunt Showdown, I see people complaining about. Helldivers, The Finals, and Overwatch. Oh, I'm getting bad ping Lucio Ball flashbacks. Make it stop! Oh, tell me if you have the same experience where foofy ping makes you do anticipation actions and dodges and stuff, where instead of looking for something to happen and then reacting, you kind of do action as if anticipating what that person is going to do because you can't rely on the ping. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but needless to say, when there's a new release, you can assume that there's not going to be African servers unless expressly said otherwise. Sucks.
Our internet speeds are absolutely crap compared to overseas like the US and everything.
This one was quite surprising to me, as I would assume due to the fact of your neighbor, you guys would kind of piggyback off that and have pretty decent internet, so. But if we run a little comparison here with you guys and us, and we look at the list of sovereign countries by internet speeds, we'll notice you guys are here by 24, New Zealand, and we are here all the way down in South Africa at 103, South Africa. Okay, so this is the part where we go explore the map a bit, where it's for the sake of transparency, I want to share something, a very common misconception about South Africa, that I think it's important to put that into context. And it's not about politics, it's information that I feel is just needs to be. If you look at the country, it has got a population of about 60 million. But if I would go to my hometown, this is where I stay. Then you got your business areas. Here's all the malls and the industrial areas. Here's the malls and stuff. You can see it in the color. And these are what would be your middle class people staying in these areas. And then obviously you get your estate living people, which is, you can't see your neighbors. It's all fancy houses in the bush and all that. But the big problem with South Africa is you'll notice next to these towns, there's these locations where This is where the majority of the country stays. They live in these little houses. This is quite one of the more decent ones. Google Street View does not drive here. And you'll notice every town is accompanied by a place like that. And for example, this is the business area. This is where all these people have to find their works and stuff. And these people generally doing hard labor and so in the cities, and also the domestic workers, the gardeners and stuff in towns. But if you look to the side here is another location. And you can notice, you'll see it's all stacked up and stuff. But the big thing is, like I showed, this is Nelspruit. This is the location, and there it goes. This is all location, and it keeps going. And all these people need to get work at Nelspruit. It looks like it stops, but it's not stopping. It just goes. And at any point you can zoom in, you can see it's these houses, and it just keeps going. And it just keeps going. It's seriously, look at that, it just keeps going. All of it. So all these people have this town, this town, this town. These little dots are towns, and these people are the domestic workers and stuff for these little towns. Let's go to Newcastle, for example. You get the town, the business areas, the housing of the middle class, upper class usually in the States, the green areas, and then you get the locations. And you wonder why this country's unemployment rate is so high. So jumping back to the internet speeds, it might look horrible, but these guys have fiber. We have fiber here at our homes. They would have fiber. Obviously, there's no fiber. There's no fiber in these places. There's hardly internet at these. There's not even cell phone towers everywhere. So that is the unique situation. Whenever you speak stats in South Africa, you have to kind of keep in mind who's the demographic you're speaking of. So you might find some gamers here, but you're not going to find gamers here. So the majority of the country lives like this. These housings. Sorry, I took you on that whole map trip. I just kind of feel it's essential information to that people don't always let you know of. So, a lot of people also hating on Starlink for some reason, saying the internet's crap and stuff. We can't wait for that when it's finally allowed to be in our country, because they need to be BEE. They need to have an X amount of black ownership before they're allowed to operate in the country. So
when gaming events happen, especially like outside of New Zealand, and as well as DLCs and stuff, they go live at the least convenient times for us.
Yeah, we don't have stuff like that happening in our country. So unless it's like in the UK, it's conveniently there, you can watch it. It's rather the same time zone than ours. But if it's America, obviously it's when we all sleep, then they're operating.
There's actually a bit of a stigma with gaming being bad for you.
Us gamers need to stick together. That stigma is very much alive this side as well. And yeah, it's, to be honest, it's not entirely without merit, if we have to be honest, but that is a very complex subject for another time. If you really want to go into it, I'd be happy to oblige. We can have a chit chat.
It's also hard to find friends in real life that also have the same interest in gaming.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but gaming as a culture is generally a recreational activity. There's a very small percentile in comparison that actually makes a living out of it. Even if you compare the streamers, the guys that does it for a living, it's like rock stars. There's a lot of people that make music. There's very few of them that make a living out of it. And then there's kind of the fact of when you were young, you had the time, but not the money to buy the games. Now you've got the money for the games, and now you don't have the time. But except for that, remember when you were a kid, you just had friends. And I mean, you were kind of in your own universe, just playing with kind of anyone. You were just friends with any kid. You didn't even bother learning all their names. You just always, Mikey, friend, you just call them that. And as you got older, you got much more selective with your friends and your friend group, and it just gets more intense as you get even out of school. There's no more these big crowd of people that you hang out, like for example in school, where you can identify people and notice that you get along with them. Where adults, you just don't have that. People are so far busy with their own things, so you only really meet people if you go out looking for them. So it becomes very scarce like that. I want to say it's the same with games. So back in the day, you got the game that was on your computer and you play that. And as you got older, you started getting your own games. And then you purchase this game. You're like, yeah, I like this genre. And as you get older, you get your games that you know, I really enjoy this. And then unless those friends that you have that is gamers play the exact same game as you, you kind of drift apart in that sense as well. So one needs to keep that also in mind when thinking about the whole thing of the gamers. And on that note, everyone's leaving the damn country. I've got this friend group where about like half of the group, just less than half the group, immigrated to other countries. Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. Very little go to America for some reason. But yeah, it's people leaving this country in droves, whatever's the term. And it sucks. It sucks. Once again, a complicated topic, which I'd be happy to go into more about if anyone ever wants to have a chat. I need friends.
Everyone loves to think for some reason that New Zealand and Australia are in the same place.
Okay, come on, let's be honest. You guys brought that onto yourself. I mean, look at your flags. And a lot of both you two, if I speak you two, Australia and New Zealand, a lot of both of your humor consists of taking the piss out of yourself, you know, insulting yourself for the sake of the joke. I love that. That's so cool. And your accents. I mean,
your accents are just kind of similar.
Our accents are completely different. They're like, where's the car? And we're like, where's the car?
If you live in the country, you can notice the accents differences. But if you're not from there, it does sound the same. I've got US people from online games. I always like to let them guess where I'm from, and so often they say I'm from Australia. Crikey, do I sound like I'm from Australia? Yeah. Yeah, but not knowing something about other countries, I find that also is like an ignorance is bliss type of thing. There's a certain novelty to that. It's like an unconventional contentness for your place. So people would complain about where they live. I think that's just natural. Whether you take action is another thing, but people complain about where they live. And if someone complains about where he lives, but he knows nothing about other countries, means he's just a complainer. He's actually happy with the country he's living in. He does not have a need to know what goes on in other countries. His country as a whole is still better than him trying to pickle over to Tanzania or Somalia. You know, he doesn't know about this country because it doesn't matter. He's kind of content what he is. There's something novel about that. But hey, Bobby, I just want to say thank you for this. I might have overindulged myself a bit by making a whole video about my perspective and shoving it to you, like being like, yeah, here's my video, watch it. Like you're supposed to care. I really had fun just like thinking about the topic. It activated things in my fragile, squishy brain matter, and just seeing perspective of other people and then comparing it to my own. And I really have fun with this, and I would love to continue this conversation on any of the topics or even others. If you ever want to really go into it, you can just hit me up. I'd be happy to oblige. Anyway, have a lovely day.